everybody gets along until they don't. So all the things that you can kind of do to ensure that they still get along are the things that you can do in your estate plan. So the first one is usually a good idea might be to have a neutral third party as your trustee. So a private professional fiduciary as your trustee, which is a whole category of professional trustee in California. So they're licensed fiduciaries that come in and administer the trust.
Yeah, there are a number of different ways you can go with that. You can name a bank, a trust department, a corporate trustee, or you can name a licensed private professional fiduciary. The thing that's nice about that is that they don't have any history. They don't have any family emotional things happening in the background. Whereas if you select one of your children, you don't necessarily know what's going on when you're not around. You don't know what their relationships really are like, and you really don't know who's holding a grudge about what and what childhood incident had a lasting impact on whom. When you bring in a neutral third party, they don't have any of that history. They're just going to get the job done.
And it really just goes a lot smoother with a professional who knows what they're doing. They call us a lot less, which results in a lot less legal fees to the trust, which means the other kids are a lot less irritated with the cost because it's a lot smaller. So even though the fiduciaries might charge for their time, they're a lot less expensive than the attorney's fees that a child might rack up having to call all the time.
That's exactly right. And this is their job. It's what they do all day from 9 to 5 or 9 to 8 or whatever their hours are. They're doing it. So things tend to happen a lot more quickly as opposed to your child who's has a job, has kids, has a soccer team, all the things. Conflict can be averted when things start happening and people start getting their money instead of waiting a year or 2 years for the trustee to start finishing up their job. Good point. And, naming a family member can be problematic. We've talked about very recently a case where there was immediately on the death, there was litigation because of the choice of the trustee.
Yep. On the death of Lisa Marie Presley, her daughter, Riley Keough, and her mom immediately went at each other trying to be trustee of her trust. Yeah. And Priscilla, they immediately went at each other. And it's like, who wants that job? I mean, they want to be paid for the job. I understand that. People usually that's what they want. But,
And I think it's also about control. A lot of times, I want to be the one in control. I don't want to be sitting there waiting and watching and hoping that it gets done. And I was reading about Jerry Garcia, and I didn't know this, but I just recently read this, that on his death, he had named his third wife as his trustee. And she promptly, apparently, based on what I read, turned around and terminated the spousal support for the second wife. So that's a clear example of family members with history and emotion rearing its ugly head and getting in the way of doing the job.
It gets very complicated. Having a fiduciary involved as a neutral third party makes it just a lot smoother. At least if the siblings are annoyed with the fiduciary, they all band together. And so they're a unified front. Just to be clear, they get to be involved in decision making. It's not like the fiduciary steps in and decides who, they clean the house out. They still involve the kids. They're not in there just making all decisions on their own. They still involve the children. So it's not like the kids don't know what's going on. Right. It's just that the fiduciary is in there doing the work.
Yeah, that's a very good point. The beneficiaries are always entitled to know what's going on. So that is not a concern with a third party.